Hey, everybody, welcome back and thanks for joining us on another podcast. This one is going to be talking about the latest CMMC updates that are going on. The last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of movement in the program, and Dr. Thomas Graham and I are here to kind of catch everybody up if you haven't heard the latest news. So, first of all, we'll kick it off about the rule itself, that it is now in the hands of the OMB and is in the hands of OIRA, and it should be there for about 90 days, and then it should be released for public comments. It could be extended. We don't think it will be, but you never know. So at this time, I think we're looking right around September, October for the public comment period to open. So keep an eye out for that. The second thing is there was a little hiccup by the Department of Defense and somebody within there that published some documents on the CMMC Level 3 before they realized it was published. They pulled the website down and have since removed those because those are actually part of rulemaking. But what it did do was give us a glimpse into kind of what the DoD is thinking for CMMC Level 3, which is something we've been waiting for, right? It's some kind of clue as to what was going to happen. And we knew it was going to be a subset of things coming out of NIST 800-172, but we didn't know what. Well, now we got a kind of a glimpse of that, but it's important to remember what Thomas and I are going to talk about. We're not going to go into too many details because it is in draft, and that could change in the public comment periods when along with the rule. So first of all, there are under CMMC that we've seen in the draft document 24 practices and then 80 objectives that follow with that. Now, that's not really the surprising thing. The surprising thing is they have mentioned these ODPs, which was previously mentioned when NIST 800-171 Revision 3 came out. That's when we kind of got introduced to that. So we're going to have Dr. Thomas Graham tell us a little bit about what an ODP is and kind of how it's going to work in the CMMC world. So Dr. Graham, enlighten us, sir.
Well, thank you, Rob. As you mentioned, and just, for clarification, both the documents you mentioned that were released mistakenly yesterday, as well as NIST 800-171 Rev 3, they are still currently in draft, which means none of this information is currently binding or in its final form. So honestly, what we're going to be talking about here, there's no confirmation from either the DoD or the Cyber AB on it. This is just our own supposition and opinion based on what we saw. So to answer your question, ODPs, much like what we saw in NIST 800-171 Rev 3 draft, speaks to the agency being the ones that can identify what specifically they want to assess against for that particular practice.
And so when you're talking agency, you're talking other federal agencies outside the DoD.
Yes. So agency in this case, it could be DoD, it could be DHA, it could be HS. Who knows? But the language is specific that when you see an organizational defined parameter, which is what ODP stands for, that is to be specified by the agency level. That's something, that when Rev 3 of 800-171 come out, that a lot of folks were talking about that, organizations are going to be able to specify whatever they want. That's not necessarily the case. Mm-hmm. Now, I am going to quantify this with NIST also released the comments that they received on Rev 3, which in case if anybody's missed it, that's out there. You can go Google it and find it. One of the largest items that were commented on was those ODPs. So if you're wanting to see what some of the discussion is, please, go take a look at that. But that's how it is currently defined. It is the best way to put it.
And so kind of looking at this, so if I'm Department of Justice, let's say, as an example, if I want to adjust what my folks that work with me have to abide by as far as regulations and requirements, I can make those adjustments specifically for my agency. Correct?
To an extent, and as I mentioned before, we don't know what the final versions are going to say. This is all based on the draft information. What it means is for those folks that are familiar with the DoD, they know that either big DoD or DISA or any of those types of organizational level regulations or requirements come out. Each of the combatant commands have the ability to specify how they're going to go about implementing it within their own organizations. So it comes out, Air Force identifies how they're going to address the requirements. Navy comes out, addresses how they're going to do it. Army comes out, addresses how they're going to do it. But they all, the way that they do it, they still have to include the same requirements for the overall assessment. It's just what you're assessing against for those items may be a little bit differently. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. As everybody knows, when you talk about cryptography under CMMC 2.0 level 2 currently, you're talking FIPS 140 TAC 2 validated. However, if it's an agency such as the NSA, they may have a different standard that they want cryptography to conform to. And that's an example of where some of the delineations can be from one agency to the other.
Okay. All right. Now, they also released documents on 2.1. Was that supposed to be released or no?
No.
Didn't think so. So that document was released as well. And I do want to talk about one thing inside that document that I think is rather important. It's a topic we've been talking about since yesterday, Thomas, is they've kind of lumped CSPs and MSPs, MSSPs, all these different service providers under an ESP or external service provider, right? So this honestly is the first time we've seen anything in writing addressing these particular individuals, right?
Well, not. I wouldn't say specifically. I know if for those folks out there that have gone through the official CMMC certification training, either CCPs or CCAs, in those trainings we've talked about ESPs, and in there it's been lumped together, and that was based on information coming out of the 2.0 guides. Mm-hmm. The part that was kind of specific in the releases, again, wasn't supposed to be released. If you try to go to the website, you can't anymore.
No, it's down.
They actually split part of that description up from an assessment standpoint, and the differentiation was CSPs will be looked at this way, and then any other service provider that's external, you're going to have to go through this other process. And I apologize, I am not getting into the specifics, but as we're talking about draft documentation and everything else, I don't want to get into that too much.
Yeah. No, so putting the thinking cap on, right? If this is the case, this gives some granularity and some insights for those particular types of organizations, but mostly for the OSCs that use those types of organizations. But I think the main reason we wanted to bring that up is so folks can be on the lookout for that when the rule hits the public comment period. Mm-hmm. That is a particular section you want to pay attention to and provide some feedback for the DoD.
Yeah, because it's going to have a bearing on quite a bit of stuff. I mean, we all know under CMMC 2.0, there's still the categorization of assets as SPAs, security protection assets. Well, we already know they're going to have to be assessed against full CMMC. The question that was getting thrown out was, okay, what if we don't have let's say the vulnerability management scanner installed directly in our environment? What if we're using some type of cloud capability, whether it be Qualys, Tenable, Rapid7, whatever the case may be? How, what are going to be some of those requirements? Well, it provides some clarity to that. It provides some clarity to cloud-based SIEM providers, for stuff like that. Again, whether that stays in there, I don't know. I have all ideas that when the final rule comes out and the final draft versions of these documents come out, that they are going to make some clarification in there. And that's because, honestly, everybody has been beating them up over the DFARS 7012 statement of FedRAMP moderate or equivalent, and nobody's defined what equivalent is. This is going to be the place where they have that opportunity to define what equivalency is.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay, so I think we beat that to death. Hopefully we've created enough intrigue so that when it does hit the public comment period, a lot of folks will go out and take a look at it. The last update is we're getting some movement on the international partners across the country and the world and all that good stuff. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're hearing about that? I mean, I know the big news was Canada that came out and announced they were going to put in a program similar or that is in parallel with the CMMC program. But I'll let you go ahead and speak to it.
Sure. So, yes, Canada is trying to do it in lockstep with the DoD. If you're not aware of that, absolutely, it's out there. Just, for your awareness, we put out some information on it, much like several other organizations have. The next countries or international locations that are going to become interesting is those in Asia, Japan, Korea, Australia. They are starting to look at this. They are starting to want to have those conversations. And just for your full awareness, if you go out and Google CMMC Asia or Japan CMMC, Korea CMMC, you'll actually see some information out there that is already getting into the public arena. I know, for instance, not to name drop, but the Korea Herald posted an article about CMMC back in April of this year. So they are starting to look for it, and this is one of the things. Honestly, a lot of the C3POs have been waiting to get some clarity on, because when CMMC first come out, all of the number estimates and everything was based on U.S. defense industrial base organizations. It didn't really take into account all of these other ancillary folks that support DoD installations overseas. I mean, and we're just talking about Asia and Australia right now. Could that also mean France, Israel, United Kingdom, Germany? All of those could potentially start coming into play as well, which, as the onus of what CMMC is, and I'm going to digress here just a little bit, Rob. CMMC was the validation of the DFARS 7012 requirements, as we've talked before. DFARS 7012 was put in place to protect the confidentiality of CUI. CUI was put in place to create a common vernacular across all of the executive agencies for information sharing and communication.
Correct.
So if you can follow that same train of thought, all of these international locations that now support DoD or whatever agency overseas, now this could create a potential common vernacular that those organizations could be graded upon in qualifying for those types of contracts, as well as providing the agency a level of assurance that has been validated that they have the protection of this information at heart.
No, that's a good point. And I mean, what we have started seeing is similar to when CMMC launched here in the U.S. LinkedIn is going crazy with all kinds of misinformation for those countries. So, try to shy away from the opinions, the this is what I think it will be, etc., and stick with the known facts. We at Redspin we try to stick to what the Cyber AB tells us, what the Department of Defense publishes. We try not to mur or blur anything when we do like podcasts and our blogs and things. So try to find a good source that you can get great stuff from and keep an eye on them. Okay. With that, I think we'll wrap this session up today. I appreciate everybody joining us again. Hopefully, you got something out of this update, but more importantly, I want to let you know, don't go out by a thinking cap. Leave that with Thomas and I. So if you need to get all the information, go visit our website at redspin.com. We've got blogs, we've got white papers, podcasts. Please go out and access that information. Take a look at it. It's free advice for you. So with that, I'm
No,
to Dr. Graham.
absolutely, Rob. You kind of summarized it pretty well. I'm going to conclude this with now is the time to start paying attention, because at the beginning of this recording, you talked a little bit about the rule and where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, CMMC is not going away. It is on OIRA's website. Notice of public rulemaking is set for September 23. So it is coming down the pipes. It is coming. Now is the time to start having those conversations to get an understanding of it. Because if you wait until that rule is final, you're going to be behind the curve. You're going to be trying to play catch up versus being able to go about your business like you normally would. So please reach out to us. We're always welcome to have a conversation. If you see us out anywhere, stop us, let's talk about it, because at the end of the day, yes, we're a business, and yes, all the folks that this is targeted to really is involved in the business world. But at the end of the day, what this program is trying to achieve is a safer working paradigm, not only for the DoD itself, but also those defense industrial based companies who may have that intellectual property, who may have, that those items. And it honestly, folks, it is trying to make sure that all of that information stays where it's supposed to be. So.
Yeah. No, great point, Thomas. So I appreciate that. Just for those that are listening, Thomas and I will be at the DHITS conference next week out down in New Orleans. And then we will be at the NCS summit in Huntsville, Alabama, a couple of weeks after that. So if you do see us out there, please come on over, introduce yourself. Let's get into conversations, and we'd be happy to talk with you about CMMC. So with that, we're spinning out of here off the Cyber Spin podcast. Have a great day, great week, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe, but be deadly.
Have a good one.